Hello everyone. So, doing a rearranging of furniture since I'm going to be out of town for a while. The baby's crib needed moving, and where we moved the crib is where my altar used to be in the bedroom. So, I'm gonna set up my altar again today. Those pictures in the bag are almost definitely going to be moved. And the things around it. My desk used to be in this corner. So the trifecta of moving things. The desk went where the altar was, or the crib went where the altar was went where the desk went where the crib was. Yep. And a few other things got moved around as well. So my altar was getting pretty dusty and unused. It's actually a, there we go. It's actually a not a wine rack, a baker's rack that I'm using as an altar. Most of the general setup will be the same, or at least very similar to what I had before. Just this is an opportunity to take things down, wipe everything completely, and reset it up so that it fits my current needs. And I'm gonna take you guys on the journey. Sure, in a perfect world, the best cleanser would be to actually have a magical cleanser on hand. But I don't have one of those ready to go. So this Mr. Clean is gonna have to do the job. Once again, most of what it is just dust. And I could simply just dust it off and call it a day. But now we got some lemon fresh. And lemon is pretty revitalizing itself, so this works out. I know some people like to find magical correspondence and everything. And correspondences are important. But sometimes just the mundane is fine too. There's a hook back here that I had used for this command hook that I'd used for the speaker I had attached to my computer to just have it hanging there. And I think I'll leave it there for now, just in case I want to use it for something. This can be unplugged for now. It is likely going to get reattached, but it's actually a humidifier. And that's the one that I actually will put essential oils in. It's just a small one. Because this is a baker's rack, it has an outlet built in. And I actually use that for lights. So it's just your typical string lights. They are not color-coded. Color-coded isn't the word I'm looking for. You can set the color of the lights, and sometimes I color code it or correspond it to the moon, most likely to the season, to the Sabbath, that is happening most recently. There we go. Just a general top to bottom wipe. And call that a day. I don't think I swept this corner before we put this here, actually. Scoot you out real quick. Going to open the window so that it's not too far back that the window cannot be opened. There we go. And that's it for the cleaning portion. Nothing crazy, as I said. 5 minutes in and out, already cleaned. And I'm gonna plug in the lights. And of course, when they get plugged in the first time, they're on party mode, which is a good way to tell when the power went out. Let me go find the remote. So, I don't know where the remote is, so I just plugged it out. That works too. Alright, item number 1 actually goes in the corner. A nice big stand. Alright. So these are actually attached with command hooks. Okay, that one's out. There we go. That one's released. Releasing these are pretty easy. You just actually have to do it slowly and stick close to the wall when you pull them. Otherwise they're gonna break off like this one did. Because I was impatient. There we go. Free of the wall, no mess. I'm going to add my other large items to the side. Oh, run away, buddy. My sword. Because every woman needs a sword. I love this thing. It's not sharpened. Sometimes I think about sharpening it, but it's not sharpened. And a spare broom. There's 2 others of that general size in the house elsewhere. I'm not too worried about it. So the first thing I'm going to set up is actually some of my memorial items. Normally I don't have a particular order for what I set up when. This is actually a table runner. It's a lot longer, but I wanted the white lace for my memorial altar. Usually there's no order to what I do first. Sorry if I repeat myself a lot. But I wanted to do these particular items first this time around, because I don't want anything happening to them. As I said, there's a lot of moving parts right now around the house, and things are everywhere, and I don't want these bumped into. The other reason why I like to put this up first is because of this edge right here. It's too large to technically fit in one of these two shelves, which, as you can tell, this is where I'm going to put it. But this portion fits perfectly fine. So what I do is I slide this forward, try not to have the sword fall, and then I put this in from the back. I'm remembering where to put the shelf back by the wood grain on the floor. And for now, I'm actually going to shift it all the way over this way, which is the opposite of how I had it before. And that is so that this can go right here. And of course, I'm not going to explain every element of my memorial altar. For privacy reasons. It is the internet after all. But it includes things like memorabilia of those I've lost, their photos, programs from funerals, things that I would, offerings for them and the like. So there's quite a few things that go on the front right here that I don't have right now. Well, I have them, but I'm not going to place them right now because of the order that I took everything out and where I placed them as their temporary homes. Alright, new outfit because it's a new day. I love this shirt. It's about 2 days later. We're gonna try to actually finish off all of this today. This is just some Palo Santo scented, maybe not scented, but derived incense. I don't think it's entirely Palo Santo, but it's party. just gonna go with it. I like starting off new altars by burning preferably Palo Santo, actually. And I could use the actual item. I have it. I have the actual wood. But for today, keeping it simple, not gonna stress out too much. It is just, it's my fresh start incense. The general setup that I go for with altars, well, this particular altar is pretty simple actually. These three shelves right here, portions of shelf, is what you would typically consider to be the altar spaces. So you have my memorial altar, which is more a derivative of an ancestor's altar, or an ofrenda if you want. Then we have this middle shelf right here, and that's my more symbolic altar, so that's where I'll have more distinct representations of the elements, different gods and goddesses maybe. And then this bottom portion, the largest, is my working altar. So it does still have some of the elements that you may find here and here, but for, active things are more likely to happen down here. Whereas these two are more likely to have simple offerings or incense, for example. Then the bottom portion is entirely storage. These sections are mostly storage, but they do have some active elements to them at times. So maybe my tools will be over there, my divination tools will be over there, spare incense, spare candles. Well, actually, usually the spare candles are down there and the incense are up here. So I guess the top shelf is more storage than not. But yeah. I do need to rearrange one thing. Now that I think about it, there's a smaller shelf that I had off to the side that had some apothecary type items that, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't have the space for that here. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with those. And this is just me rambling as I set these up. Not really a point to this video. I don't intend to make this your typical YouTube channel where there's a script to follow or anything of that sort. So that means you get to get me popping in and out of the frame, doing random things, setting up this altar as we go along. Got my handy dandy feather duster here. I've developed a love of this thing. Actually, should I put this on the bottom? I don't know. It might be long, it might be tall. I'm not mature enough for this. love using that electronic air gun. It makes everything so much faster. Okay. And these are different elements of my more symbolic altar that the way I was temporarily storing these means that not everything is together the way it used to be. Which is fine by me, because not everything is going to end up where it started off. Was this how I had it? I feel like it's not fitting quite the way I had it before. And I'm pretty sure. Maybe I had it off-centered. Or I had this in the center. Different elements that are all theoretically my center elements, but I can't remember exactly how I centered them. So, usually, whether or not the god goes on the right side and the goddess goes on the left side really depends on perspective. So, are we talking about my right, because me facing the altar, this is currently my right, or are we talking about the altar's right? It just, because the altar is facing the opposite direction. For now, I go with my right. Then I actually have two goddess statues, figurines, images that I use. Then I have these elemental jars. There likely will eventually be another god statue. I think I would rather use the word figurine, but I have a feeling I'm going to continue saying statue. That's fine. Everything's fine. But I don't want to rush getting said god statue. I'm gonna switch this so that this point is at the top. And that way or maybe no, because then even then this would fit more on, would lean more towards the goddess side than the god side. I also have these three candles, black, white, and red. And in this case, they're symbolization of life, death, and rebirth. And I'll rotate them based on where we are in the cycle of the year. But for now, we'll keep it that way. And one of the very first altar items that I've had are these 6 laughing Buddhas. Or Budai, however you say that word in particular. I've never been convinced that I'm saying it right. But I keep 3 on each side of this particular altar. I've had them for a while. They represent different concepts, like prosperity, for example. There's a travel Buddha. He's my go-to guy for safe travels. And this is empty. And that is most of the elements that will go on this particular shelf. Alright. If it seems like it's cutting, that's because it is. I made the decision to hold on. Couldn't tell if you guys were hearing me over my air gun. I made the decision to go ahead and gather a few things at a time and then come back to the altar to get them put up. I'm actually pulling these different elements from the room next to where I currently am. At the time of making this, it is actually 2 days before the new moon. And oh, I am losing track of my days. I wish I had a calendar next to me. A couple days before the new moon and a few days before the add an extra day to that, and it'll be the autumn equinox. So the new moon is a great time for new altar setup, and I wanted to make sure that I had this properly set up before the Sabbath actually got here. I remember. I know what's off. I thought there was more space being given here than I usually do, and there is. There actually is. This doesn't actually belong up here for now. So sit you down there, out of the way. Some of the items on my altar are relatively new. So a lot of them are pretty old. even despite their origins. And what I mean by despite their origins is that some of this stuff comes from the dollar store many, many years ago now. And even though they came from the dollar store a very many years ago, they still hold their own. Let's move you over some, so I can move this whole thing over. Set this up top so I don't accidentally knock it over. And this goes right here. I'm trying to set it in such a way. There we go. And I got two petals sitting against here. I can still put these mirrors under here. I store these two mirrors facing each other more often than not. Then back to the scooching. This stays here. This goes over here, so it's touching. And that should allow me enough space for my god candle. Scoot it forward, and we can have this sitting on the bottom so we still have our working surface. Now sometimes I do have this covered with an altar cloth, just because. And we're gonna move this prosperity charm over here. This little dude, actually, you can hang out up here. He's a little rooster. The fun story about that is that I had a Tamed Wild subscription box for a while back when they did the monthly subscriptions. And there was one that's supposed to be just a random spirit animal, and that's going to be, well, it doesn't have to be your spirit animal for forever, but that's going into spirit animals is not the point of this. And the one that I got was this little rooster. And I looked it over, and I even flipped through the book that it came with. And in the book, there was no mention of a rooster or chicken or anything. But I got this little dude. And I was like, no, there is no way that can be any animal other than a rooster. It's none of the other birds. It is not a peacock. It is not an owl. This is not an eagle or any other bird. That is definitely a rooster. But it's also fitting because that is my Chinese zodiac sign. So he gets to stay. And then I'm actually going to put this on one of the storage shelves, which I think I'll put it up. Should I do top or bottom? I'm gonna put it on the bottom. So let's scoot this forward a little bit. I'm just dragging it so that the ashes would drag as well. I'm just going to use one of the same cleaning cloths that I've been using. Sometimes I save incense ashes, sometimes I don't. Today I probably won't. But this little box is a bunch of tarot cards and oracle cards. There's also some runes in there. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's just tarot, oracle, and runes that are in this one. But speaking of divination tools, next comes the big guy. The big guy in question is this crystal ball that my husband got for me. And that is what goes on top of this. The base needs a little dusting. I don't know what it is, but the house is basically covered in a layer of dust. There is not a thing in this house other than the things that I've dusted in the last month or so that does not have a thick layer of dust to it. I also have these backup ones, and all of these have different stories behind them. Like you have my very first one, which is the thin guy. You have the thicker one, is actually I just found it in the desert, so that's my desert one. And the small one is rosewood from a rose bush that I had. And actually I don't think there's anything in particular to make it obvious right now. But I have to think about roses. Now I'm conflicted. Usually I actually keep this behind the crystal ball. And then the ones actually stick up right there. Well, maybe I'll still do that. I just need to scooch it forward a little bit. And while I'm not trying to perfectly replicate my previous setup, I'm trying to keep many aspects of it. Because one, it was set up that way for a reason. Some of it symbolically, some of it for more practical purposes. For example, the ones, putting them elsewhere, they tend to get in the way. So either they're too large to fit properly in that area, so right now they're actually sticking up right here above the... Can you even see my hand? Can I see my hand? They're sticking up over here. There we go. I lost my train of thought. Yes, other places they'll either not fit properly, or they'll fit, but then when I'm reaching for something else, I'll knock them over. So for a second there I was going to put them right here in front of the tarot desk because I'm most likely going to put my other tools right here. But chances are I would reach for a deck and accidentally knock it over. So to avoid that, we're just going to keep them where they were. Especially since they are not my primary ones, so I'm not likely to reach for it. And this card I got in Germany, and You can kind of see it on camera, not really. There we go. It actually shifts through the 4 seasons based on the lighting. Or based on how you tilt it. It's one of... I don't know what you call those cards. Or those images. But you shift it and it goes through the 4 seasons. And I just keep it over here on the edge. And you can slide them back and forth. I have these clear clips on these strings so I can hang things, pieces of paper, bits of things. I got this from the Farmer's Almanac. It's been through some stuff. I just think it's solid advice. A suitable place for everything, and everything in its place. A proper time for everything, and everything done in its time. A distinct name for everything, and everything called by its name. And a certain use for everything, and everything puts to its use. It's just something that I try to remind myself, because I tend to collect things. Because they have potential. Even if I'm not using them for that potential. So, trying not to do that. Trying not to do that. Smooth this here. This is a little bit wider, so I wanted to have that room. The incense holder, burner, a little bit farther forward. The sleeping angel baby. And put the incense there. There we go. I don't want you knocked over. Down she goes. It's okay. You can hang out with your rose. Let's flip the rose over. There we go. Flip the rose. While I'm at it, because these are mostly the final elements for how I have this set up. And most likely, as the season of the dead comes closer, I'll be rearranging this particular altar anyhow. I need to get a backing for this pin. It hasn't fallen yet, with me doing this. But I definitely would feel better with it more secured. And lastly, this key. As I said, I had a Tamed Wild subscription for a while, and this is actually one of the things I got from them. I might move you over here. There we go. Even though I just talked about not putting the wands somewhere where they might get in the way, such as next to the tarot decks, I'm going to go ahead and do that very same thing with this oil lamp. Well, maybe I should turn it so that the handle is out, but then the adjustment will be in the back. I don't like that. There. So the handle is out, and I can reach the adjustments. Never mind that anytime I operate it, I pick up the whole entire thing anyway. Yeah. Details. Alright, and the last thing for sure on this part of the altar before I move on to the things that go into storage are these elemental candles. Different from my elemental jars because they're candles, not jars. But just put them with my own personal correspondence, and I already messed that up. Put them with my own personal correspondence for where the elements belong on... Oh, my brain is not working today. On the pentacle. Which, now that I'm thinking about it, I may need to... No, I don't. I was going to say I may need to rearrange because with what is facing in which direction as far as altar orientation is considered. So, for layout purposes, currently behind the altar is east, in front of is west. Yeah, I don't like those two next to each other. There we go. So, if it was a 4-element setup, then yes, I would go with north. I was about to say north, south, east, west. North, south, east, west. And put the elements with their correspondences. But since it's actually a circular one that I got going on, not as important. Now, let's zoom out. And by zoom out, I mean move the whole entire camera. And adjust. There we go. There we go. Bam. Now you can see all the messy stuff that is next to it. So first I'm just going to move everything to the floor in front of the altar and go from there. Okay. As I mentioned before, this is actually a baker's rack. And because it's a kitchen item, it actually conveniently has a section for wine glasses, which is where I put my various chalices. We're going to call them chalices. I got them from a few different places. I actually don't remember where I got this small set from. I only keep one on the active altar right now. This, I do remember where I got this from. I got this from the Dollar Tree, actually. Back before it was the $1.25 tree. And I got it entirely because of the design that is on. Can you kind of see it? I'm pretty sure it's a familiar enough design. There we go. There's this focus. It is not uncommon to see that one out and about. And these big guys I got at thrift stores. 2 different thrift stores, different years apart, but they look like they're part of a set, don't they? And I got them for that reason. Now, they are too big to actually fit in the wine glass section of this, but I could not include them. And open here for now. These 2 cases is your typical craft wooden boxes that you can get from Michael's, Hobby Lobby, AC Moore, Joann's. Okay, I don't know if they're at Joann's. I haven't been into a Joann's arts and crafts section recently enough to remember if they have them. In these, and I have little labels on the side so I know what type of candles I have in each of them. So this one has candles that are more in the size of birthday candles, chime candles, taper candles, so your skinnier candles. Then this one has tea lights and votives, which are shorter, but they also tend to come in, especially the tea lights, very multi-packs. Now the wine glasses are gonna go here. Which actually I need to switch those around. But I'll do it as I put the big guys down. Team theme-esque kind of sort of a theme going with where I put the different items down here. Switch those 2 around. And it is more or less elemental in nature. At least the first time I set it up it was. Not so much anymore. It was just, I kept the more water-themed items on one shelf, more fire-themed items on one shelf. But, as you're about to see, that is going to go out the window very quickly with this next set. And this box right here is actually different waters in repurposed bottles. This used to have wine in it, and now it has rainwater. This also has rainwater. This has what is left of my ocean water, because I currently live in the desert. So I can't exactly go and refill this. Oh wait, I lied. I have another thing of ocean water. Once again, not that much. But more than I thought I did. This guy is currently empty. This guy has a little bit of rainwater left in him. This guy is currently empty. This is not water. It's alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol. I'm not drinking alcohol. This has seawater, which for me is not the same thing as ocean water. And these are caps to various bottles and jars that I'm using elsewhere that I may put the caps back on at some point. That is completely blank. And a mirror. The bottom of this is actually dusty. But not actual dust so much as it is cat hair. Because his hair gets everywhere. Should start off by putting the rainwater back. And then I'm going to put this guy inside so that he doesn't tip over. Ocean water. And slide it back a little bit so that it's standing on its own now. And I store these so that they're more or less facing the same direction. This guy is currently empty. There we go. As I said, my storage once upon a time was themed, so the extra mirrors did go in here because I consider them to be water themed. This big guy is full of salt. It's as big as my head. Now that I think about it, the camera might not be able to pick up my voice very well as I'm over here mumbling to myself. That's okay. And this is just a working candle. Now, at the very bottom in the corner is this crock pot. Not crock pot. cast iron pot. Now, it's been repurposed because it's enamel coated on the inside, but some of the enamel chipped, so I don't use it for food anymore because I don't want any of the continuous chipping to get into what I'm making. But what I can use it for is melting down candle wax to make more candles or to seal something. That's what I most likely am melting candle wax for. Because to this day I have not made my own candles. For now I'm going to move this up here in front of the glasses and put this lighter up here. Alright, so down here we also have more candles. And while I don't get the Tamed Wild subscription box anymore, I'm not sure they do it anymore actually. But for a while I would periodically I would go and get a singular box instead of the auto-renewable subscription. And those single boxes either came with candles or I'd buy the candles. So we have a full moon candle, a night sky candle, a Persephone candle, and an Aphrodite candle. And then I also keep some small pillar candles on the bottom. This doesn't actually have an active candle in it, it's just leftover wax at this point. I think this came from Hobby Lobby maybe? I'm pretty sure I got it at Hobby Lobby at when they were on clearance for a while. Since I've moved to where I am now, I have not actually gone. I've been to Hobby Lobby once in the last 3 years. But I used to frequent their clearance section just to see if there's anything useful for me. Just dust these. And these are things that I put in the general, I call it my cauldron shelf, like nesting pots. And no, they're not actual cauldrons, but they're bowls of various kinds. I am now coated in dust. Bowls of various kinds. And one more thing. Is this a bunch of various apothecary type items that go on this shelf right here. And that's where the remote for the lights went, so I can plug that back in and actually change the light color. Let's see, what color would work well? If it will cooperate. There we go. Just a normal white. Yeah, just a plain white. Alright. So, I actually have YouTube playing on TV in the living room. So, if you can hear the sound in the background, that's what that is. I had to change it real quick because I had not realized that the sound changed. Or the video changed, and it was a lot louder than what I intended it to be. So, if you were thinking beforehand that this working altar seemed to be missing something, it is. If you weren't thinking that, well, it is. And now I remember why I had this over here. So I have this altar tile, this pentacle tile, right here. And so I have this preset for basic ritual, basic spell work. The general framework. So I have a goddess candle, a god candle, I have the 5 elements, and I also have a central candle. Now the central candle sometimes is my working candle, which I'll either have this guy, and he might not be centered at the time unless I take out the altar tile altogether, or the altar tile altogether. Or he might be elsewhere, just sitting there doing his thing. I also have this, which does go in the center, and it's yellow because I actually try to use beeswax candles. Inside each of these candle holders is a beeswax candle, a little beeswax tea light. But I do have other candles that I'm trying to use up before I can use all my beeswax, before I can just switch entirely to beeswax candles. In which case, I'll also periodically use this, which I have them all labeled. There we go. You can cut. There we go. I have them all labeled for what Sabbath they're for. So I have 8 of them. Actually, here's another one. I have them all labeled for that, but yeah, okay. Enough of that particular bit of rambling. More back to adding things back to the altar. So, the first things I had taken off the altar are all in this tote. So that's where my tools are all at, etc., etc. It smells lovely in here, because that's where all my essential oils are. So the tea tree and the lemon are really strong, just kind of wafting out. Okay, but anyway, let's put the crystals back. Where did I have the crystals before, you might wonder, or not. I actually don't remember, so I'm going to put them here. until I can think of a better place to have them. Where did I just put? I just have these cases that I use to sort my crystals. So this is what I refer to as the quartz box. Mostly because it has all of these clear quartz that I realize are not actually picking up that well. I have a large collection of clear quartz happening in rose quartz because it's my favorite. Some selenite, some lapis, some sodalite. Now these are just like variety of quartz. So I think I have some smoky quartz in there. What else do I have in there? I have sulfur quartz in there. I have a blue quartz in there. Anyway, it's a pyrite, then got amethyst, which of course another type of quartz. Then jaspers, like those are not my jaspers. Actually, no, yeah, these are all different types of jasper. There we go. I'm just gonna put the crystals next to the crystal. I'm funny. It's a silly joke. Okay. And I'm gonna set these right here for now. Some pendulums. Then grab this case. Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to rearrange this slightly. Because this guy is my black mirror, obsidian. And you would think, why am I polishing this to a shine while actively putting my fingerprints back on it? Don't worry about it. There you go. You can hang out there for now. And these set of divination dice, yes, they're just regular 10-sided dice, but 10? Yeah, 10-sided dice. Alright, then we get this guy. So, I was just moving things out of the way so I could get him situated first. Got this at the thrift store. Actually, when we moved here. So when we first moved here, we got here a lot earlier than our furniture did. So there was lots of thrifting happening. And while I was at it, I got different, I picked up some stuff for the altar because, hey, if it's here, it's here. And these days I use it mostly to store my tools. So I have this selenite wand. That goes there. I also have this crackle glass crystal ball. You might wonder why I keep putting things over here instead of here in the center. And oh, does this work? There we go. Crackle glass. And that's because that's where the viewfinder for the camera is, so I can see that what's in frame and what's not. So I keep showing things to the viewfinder instead of to the actual lens. Alright, let's move this out of the way. So I actually have my altar veiled sometimes, just veil the entire altar with a literal transparent? Is it transparent? The word I'm looking for? A sheer, there we go. A sheer curtain. you guys get to see literally behind the veil at the moment. This is my travel altar. So, because of work, I'm sometimes away from home for extended periods of time. And when that happens, especially if there is a Sabbath that's happening, I use this as a travel altar. I actually think it's cute that the brand is Pantheon. It's meant to be for hygiene supplies. But I got that around the same time that I got this. So I mentioned I got that in Germany. I actually got that off of Amazon, but I was in Poland at the time. And that all happened in the wonderful year that was 2020, where I was stuck in Europe. Which sounds like a great place to be. Like, if you could be stuck anywhere during a pandemic, you know, why not be stuck in Europe? Except there was a pandemic, so it's not like we were going anywhere. Or like traveling and exploring the countries. So yeah, keep that one in mind. Okay, here we go. So this is a pendulum holder. I get a lot of things off of Amazon. Yes, Amazon has its issues. And I'm well aware of that. But for the time being, that is not stopping me from continuing to purchase things that I may or may not need from Amazon. And it's gone. Which I need to add a bit of stability to that to begin with. So that it's not so wobbly. And okay, that is on me. You know what? This will be the last thing I set up because I do need to add some stability to it. So I'm going to put these pendulums on top of my crystals for now. I'm going to leave that set up so I don't accidentally put more things there. Okay. With this tray is actually what I use for my various tools. So this is a wick puller. I'm not sure if that's the official name or not, but a wick puller, a candle snuffer that actually has quite a bit of wax built up on it, which is fine. It's doing its job. There we go. Put those next to each other for now. And I will, of course, be rearranging all these various tools as time goes on. So these are, there we go. There we go. The electric lighters that I use primarily for candles. So the electric lighters I use for candles. Now this bad boy is fun. So also have your usual lighter. These are fun. So, yep. There we go. It's a torch. Like, yeah. And those make it so much easier to light cone candles and the charcoal disc for resins or anything that I'm burning on a charcoal disc makes it so much easier. And of course, Palo Santo, which is known to be difficult to keep lit or to just light in the first place. So that makes it so much easier. A black-handled blade. Two different white-handled blades, and as you can see, you know, it's basically a switchblade. This one is more in a traditional bowling shape, so it's curved. You gotta be a bit more careful with this one. It doesn't actually have a safety on it. I'm making faces as I'm saying these things, and I don't know if the faces are actually in frame. They're probably not. Yeah, I have a lot of different types of white-handled utility blades. And some of it is because, you know, tradition. So I go out of my way to get the white-handled ones because even though I am not Wiccan, I get them because it forces me to have that extra layer of taking care of your tools. So they'll get dirty, you can see on the white that it's dirty. It's the same thing with chefs wearing white, where, yes, you are intended to get dirty. The nature of your job you will get dirty. But it also means you need to take care of your things to keep that white going. So when they are in use, they will get messy, but then you go back and you take care of it. So yes, that is why I do have so many white-handled things, including scissors and pruners. There's actually one that's missing that is not going to go on right now because it's in the next room because it's been used recently. I got a candle snipper that, like a wick cutter, that obviously came in the set with the puller. There was a version to also get the candle snuffer in the same color, but I actually already had a candle snuffer, so I didn't get that one because I don't need two candle snuffers, and the one that I currently have is working perfectly fine. This right here, these tongs, they actually do have some symbols on them. There we go. You can kind of see it. I got them from what I call hippie stores. It's just a natural food. Actually, I think the store was called Natural Foods. It was a natural food store. And like they had a garden in the back where all the produce that was sold in the store either came from a local farm or it came from the store itself, the garden in the back that they sold. It sold herbs, they sold charcoal disc, and the tongs to hold said charcoal disc. Okay, then we got these bookends, once again, courtesy of Amazon. And while most of my craft books are actually on this shelf, so this shelf, I have a lot of books. I own a lot of books. But this shelf in particular holds more of my non-fiction books. So you've got my recipe books right here. It's like half recipe books and half generally about food and nutrition. But these two shelves are actually spiritually aimed books. So most of my spiritual books are actually on this shelf. So this is a great placement. However, the books that I reference while I'm actively working, more often than not, are of course going to be my tarot books. So, actually, we got book on the runes, general tarot book, This is for one of the specific oracle decks that I have. And this is also for a specific tarot deck that I have. There are others somewhere that are not in this box that I'm grabbing things out of right now. And I know I saw it recently, probably because I was flipping through it recently, but not here right now. So that's fine. But since I'm more likely to reach for these books as I'm working, they get to stay here. I also have these cards, tarot cards, rune cards, or I should be more specific, tarot learning cards and rune learning cards. So they have the rune on one side and the meaning and other information on the other side. Same thing with the tarot version. And if I'm not lying to myself, they actually have a crystal version. It doesn't actually have any additional information on here. But I do believe that there's a version about crystals as well. And I'm going to go ahead and put this bell up here. Because one of the things I use to... I'm not going to explain all the different reasons for to have various tools, but the bell, it does the same thing where it just generally clears the air the way incense does. It sends the sound waves out. But also, you can use a bell to summon. So, you can use the bell to banish, but you can also use the bell to summon, because as the sound travels out, you can be heard and felt by different entities, and use that to call them to where the sound originated from. I'm going to put you back here. My husband got me this. It's an incense burner for backflow incense, and of course the smoke comes out of the nipples. So I think it's fun. I'm gonna actually put her over here on the shelf for now. Where is her seat? There it is. She has a base. I have a few different incense burners already on the altar, so I might find somewhere else to put her. Though this room is a good room to have her in, because you don't want to have backflow incense somewhere where a ceiling fan is going to just blow all the air out, all the smoke out and about already before it has a chance to settle. I have 2 roses of Jericho. Rose of Jerichos. And they live on this shelf next to all the apothecary stuff. But I'm having difficulties right now with placing them where I used to. So what I might do is actually shift these over here so I'm not knocking into things. Huh. Is this not where I had it before? This might not be where I had them stored before. Okay, I'll put it next to the candles. I wonder. Let's put the candles over some. There you go. Actually, that might have been where I had them. I have old knees. And the very first things I took down was actually my different incense. And it's only because they were just on the very top, so they were easy to reach. Talk about things that need rearranging, rehoming. Okay, so let's move this over here and put the oils on the very edge. No, that is not going to work. That is not going to work for my purposes. I remember the first time I did this, it was a similar back and forth with what goes where. I'm pretty sure this went here, regardless. You know what? I think I know what it was. I had these stored like this. And this stored to the front so you can actually see what it was. So, because it has a little flower on there. I'm going to leave you here closer to the oils actually for now. Because the other thing that I have is some loose incense that aren't in either of the boxes, and those I just had sitting out. Chakras. There we go. And if you hadn't noticed, the incense I had burning already finished. So I'm going to add some of this Divine Temple to the mix. Light it, let it burn for a little bit. And there you go. either until it self-extinguishes the flame, or you see that the tip is red hot, and then you go from there. Alright. Then you have this backflow incense cone that I'm actually going to... It came out of one of the boxes. I'm going to put it next to the backflow incense burner. And this is frankincense. And that I typically actually keep with the memorial altar because that's where I use that one currently. Okay, who knows how long that's been off. Hopefully only a couple of seconds. I look back every now and then, so hopefully. And we have, got these different types of holders for incense. So they don't get rolled back and forth too much, I put them inside the little candle cap in there. And last but not least from this case is this coffin incense holder, which doesn't have anything in here right now, but I love these things, especially since they have a little secret compartment that you can store incense in. There we go. Incense shelf complete. Other things to put up include these extra charcoals, which you would think would be better suited to go next to all the candles, which that's used to be where they're kept, but for now I actually put them on the very bottom. The very bottom is for things that I am not going to suddenly want to use, because I am a if I don't see it, it doesn't exist type person. But I will remember that I have things like a giant jar of salt and actually reach for it, or if I go to burn a resin incense, or oftentimes Palo Santo actually, I'll remember to look for the charcoal. So I'm not going to forget that it's there by putting it down there. Now if I have this nice little blade here that I want to give a different home than what it had before. And since I didn't use a space that's next to this, that's where I'm going to temporarily store it until I determine where I want to keep it permanently from now on. Who knows, it might stay there. Alright. So, we're just going to put down this nice little rug here. This stool so I can sit at my altar. Found the main missing book that I was thinking about earlier. It's just another tarot book from my oldest tarot deck, actually. This giant binder that I use as a Book of Shadows that will go on the stool. Alright, and then I'm going to put the curtains back up. Of course, there are many things that are still missing from the altar itself. because I do consider this whole thing an altar. You can be technical about it and say it's more of a gathering of my various spiritual items. But isn't that what an altar is at the end of the day? But while there are a lot more things to be included, I've run out of the amount of energy and effort I'm willing to put into a video. And because I've run out of effort, that's all you're gonna get. Because one thing I don't care to do too much of is edit a video. But I can't just not edit the video. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I'm gonna start installing my veiling system, which is basically these sheer curtains, some twine, and lots of command hooks. Scooch you out of the way a little bit while I finish this. I'm gonna finish installing this little bit of veiling. Then I'm gonna go ahead and put up my primary protective measures, which, believe it or not, the veiling is not a very big part of it. The veiling is more for practical uses, based on who is coming in and out of the house. And me not wanting my things disturbed. Yeah, your general, don't touch my stuff. Lift you up a little bit so I can hook this one on. There we go. I'll probably tie those better later. As you can see, it doesn't even go all the way around more often than not. I don't need it to. a fairly simple system, actually. What's behind the curtain? There we go. But yeah, we'll call this it for the video portion. I'll likely come back over here many times throughout the day and mess with it, but can't forget the remote for the lights. That is it.